I start? Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Chen. This presentation is it's part of the results of my CBCP Visiting Research Fellowship. Today, I'm going to share some insights from my research on two Chinese fonts recently acquired by the University of Reading collections. The title of this presentation is Type, Technology, and Translation, a case study of Chinese metatype. These three key terms outline the structure of my talk. Type actually refers to the investigation and analysis of these two Chinese fonts, examining their origins, characteristics, and significance in the history of Chinese typography. And technology explores the craftsmanship and production techniques behind the Chinese metatype, and particularly the adaptation of Western type-making methods to Chinese writing systems. And translation considers how these historical fonts can be interpreted in contemporary typographic contexts, bridging past innovations with present-day applications.
Okay.
And this is the first set of the Chinese metatype, referred as, I call it like font 1, consisting of 24 pieces of Chinese type. It is known that font 1 was like transferred from the Fenruary Foundation to Reading, and it can be observed that there seem to be several cases, seems like missing from the top left and the top and the bottom right, as well as some like center areas. Seems like they are missing, but actually I'm not sure whether they are missing some like type cases or not. And when open it, the Chinese metatype is like neatly arranged in rows and with serial numbers indicating the order of the type case. Additionally, each character is also labeled with a serial number. And the other set of Chinese fonts, known as, I call it like font 2 in this presentation, is from the Type Archive London to Reading. It's stored in two large cabinets. This is one of it, with a total of like 24 drawers. And when font 2 is opened, it reveals individual like a square compartment. Inside each compartment, a printed character is affixed facing outwards, like accompanied by a corresponding serial number. Apart from those two like objects, those two fonts, there is also a handwritten note by Jeff, and recording the origin of the font 2, and and also the font 1 actually is from Fenruary Foundation, but remains unknown what is previous like a situation of those font 1. But font 2, there's some information. This is all the like with objects and this paper. This is all the known information and the basic of my research. First, extract the information recorded by Jeff. And the first thing is the Chinese types, and this is the information from the right part. And I try to do some like a small analysis. And the TA actually indicates that it's a type archive acquired this set of metatype from William Clovis Printing Museum. And William Clovis Museum is actually William Clovis Ltd, founded in 1803, was a pioneer in steam-powered printing. The notes also indicate that it once used at the Oxford University Press. And also it is 14-point foundry type and dated back to the late 19th to the early 20th century. And the type features traditional Chinese characters, not simplified, and was likely produced by a commercial Chinese printing foundry. And this indicates that this batch of type was like a and also the last part, number 5, indicated it was transported to Reading around like 15th of April 2023. And today I'm going to analyze these two fonts in 4 parts. The first part is individual type analyze, and the second part is a storage layout examination and exploring type origins, and also I'm going to mention some really special types founded in those two fonts. And this diagram present terminology related to a single cast type. And based on the defined terminology, I select a dozen of lead type like specimens and measure them using a caliper. And this is the average value of the basic dimensions measured for lead type. And the top height is around like 23.9 millimeters, and the type body frame is around 4.75 millimeters. And the height of the Chinese lead type is 23.9 millimeters, whereas the previously mentioned standard Oxford University price type height is 23.32 millimeters. So the result in like a 0.58 millimeter difference, making it is difficult to mix and match like other like Latin together in typesetting. So whether they are printed like simple, whether there are some like printed samples testing mix composition with this set of with this font remains to be like verified. One possibility is that the height was like intentionally increased to improve the clarification of the Chinese characters when it's going to be printed. And as for the body size, which like corresponds to the point size, and the record indicates it's a 14 point, but actually measurements shown like 4.75 millimeters, which is close to 13.5 point. So this aligns with the small size font by missionary-led and previously like tested in print by a Japanese researcher, Komiyama. And the other key feature of this lead type is the variance in depth between the contour of complex characters and their surrounding areas. And this provides strong evidence that the metrics were produced through punch pressing. So it's making by the punch and also like cast those types. During this process, the varying density of the metal prevents the contour from like fully conforming to the punch, resulting in deeper impressions around the edges compared to the inner section of the cast type. And this is the, for example, this in this lead type, you can see the contour indicates the white arrow is relatively shallow, and while the surrounding edges exhibit deeper impressions. And this is the first type case of the font one, containing around 255 Chinese characters or source. And the character arrangement follows the arrangement of the Chinese characters follow the 240 radicals of the Constitution Dictionary, but with many like reorganization because of the lack of some characters. And I draw the, it's not that clear. I draw this one is as a kind of a framework for to mention those where is the location of the characters. And this is the enlarged numbering system. The large one indicates type case one on the right up corner, while like adjacent like 1 to 26 actually refer to the radicals number 1 to number 26. And for example, in the character below the large A, the first number is 28. Actually, they made a mistake. It's like they for the type case one. So this is 28. Actually, it should be 1 for here, but they arrange it from bottom to up for the type case one. I'm not sure why they do that. And yeah, and also like the number is the number 28 of this character in this type case. And there is a smaller one, the port is like a 90 like rotated. And this one is the first the first radical. So together they can like to make sure what is the location of the character in this type case. But however, like actually the first radical should be a horizontal stroke, but here they use a character to use instead to represent it. So like here, this is the contradiction, and the first one should be just a horizontal stroke here. And the numbering on the left is to count the number of strokes for the different radicals. And the 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4 is a P. So if we go back to here, this is the one fit. They put like rotated. So it's here is number 4, is number 4's radical. And in this type case is number 27. Yeah. So this is following this like type case following the sequence of records without specifying the stroke numbers. And this is like that. Yeah. And this is the fourth type case of the font 1. And it can be observed that the number of types varies based on the frequency of the Chinese usage. Some characters occupy 3 rows, while others have only a few pieces, few like types. And additionally, in type case 4, the area numbered 103 to 104 also contains some punctuation marks. Yeah, this is a enlarged version of that. So this part, like a punctuation meta type, has the same type height as the Chinese character types, and the typeform height is the height of here. It's a height also is the same with other letters, but the width varies depending on the specific like punctuation marks. And this is the type storage layout of font 2, which is stored into cabinets with a total of 24 drawers. And the photo shown is one of the drawer of the type case. This is one of the type case. And the type case also arranged according to the radical order of the constitutionary. And next, I will explore the origin of these two fonts through like printing tests and comparisons with published books. And this method is similar to stroke proofing, smoke proofing, but use an ink pad, like traditional Chinese ink pad, with font 1 in blue and font 2 in red. And the test reveals that font 1 and font 2 originate from the same set of metrics. So actually they are the same font, but they are different font, but from the same metrics. And since both fonts originated from the same set of metrics, they can technically use interchangeably. However, it is still important to distinguish between those two fonts. So one really clear difference is the marking method on each type piece. So the upper type is marked using a sharper engraving. So this mark is I found it's quite sharp, quite clear. But lower part they may use some slightly duller engraving or in some case with some ink, white ink, to mark what is the location of this type. And the meaning of that, we can go back to the type case number 1. So the character means this is a he, means he, and we can find it's from here. So the number is 181. So 1 means it's from type case 1, and 81 is the number in this type case. So because some compositors or typesetters, they may not know what is the Chinese meaning of the character, so they need to find a good way to do some typesetting. So this method is they are using to indicate where is the location of the type. Yeah, and then I conduct some printing tests based on an initial analyze. Both fonts belongs to the 13-point Chinese metal type led by Samadaya. And he was the second official missionary sent by the London Missionary Society to China. And some scholars also refer to this font as Hong Kong type. And then I compiled some printed books, like the 13.5-point Chinese type specimen attached to. Actually, this specimen is from letter Samadaya sent to his father in 1842 from Singapore. And I also compared it with the 1856 edition of the Gospel of Matthew from the New Testament, published by Mohai Shuguan, which was the London Missionary Society Press in Shanghai. So after combining these three type of the three specimens, it's also confirmed that the meta type in our collection, in writing collections, was originally led by Samadaya and later refined it by Richard Cole. So the first one is the character made by like Samuel Dyer. He only like made like a few hundred of the 13.5 point font like Hong Kong type. Samuel Dyer only like make like around 200, and later those idea and concept and also the 200 like portraits like moved to a few people and finally received by Richard Cole from American Preparatory Mission Prize, and he refined some of the letters, make it back to because he stayed in Hong Kong to improve the quality of that, but it also remains a few characters, and then this is the type from our collection. So by comparing some like do some like comparing them, like I can confirm that this font actually is from lead by Samadai and refined by Richard Cole. And in 2023, I co-authored an article with Professor Sun Mingyuan in Print Culture titled "East World Separate of Western Learning and Western World Separate of Eastern Characters, the Development, Internationalization, and Transition of 24-point and 13.5-point Chinese move type." This essay actually reconstructed the 150-year global development and evolution of these two fonts. And this article will later be written in English and for further publication. This is the map we created illustrating the main production and dissemination paths of Samadai font. So originally Samadai from the UK, and he go to like Penang and Malacca and Singapore and go to Hong Kong. And he passed away in Hong Kong. And then those type actually from Hong Kong is going to like is bought by Hofmann in Netherlands, and also like get like a sale into the American Preparatory Mission Prize in Shanghai, and also in Ningbo. And also later on, William Gamble takes that into Japan. That become kind of origin of the Songqi style of the Chinese typeface. And it's noteworthy that in 1858, Jonah Joseph Hoffman, professor of Chinese and Japanese at the Leiden University, acquired Dye's 13.5 points type, actually it's Hong Kong type, into Netherlands. He used electrotyping to recast these types into a new matrix and then expanded the character set. Surprisingly, actually, alongside the expanded character set, they also introduced an alternative type body size to increase the spacing between Chinese characters. This photos is provided by Ronald. He's the one to fund those kind of Chinese Hong Kong type in Netherlands, and he's doing a lot of like collaborations and some exhibition since in Hong Kong, and also now in Hong Kong they did I think several exhibitions already related to the Hong Kong type. And this is photos he sent to me, and it's clear to see like this type is the ages, so the margins of here is quite larger than what we have in the reading collection. And apart from the types with whole characters, a small number of divisible types are present in the font one. However, historical record contains no mention of Dye or Core ever producing divisible types. I'm quite like confused with these types. It's just a little like maybe like 20 or 30 divisible types there. Still like I'm still doing some research on it. And if you have any idea with this, please do let me know. And comparing the same printed character produced with a single type or like two divisible types, it's likely that the divisible type were used for, I'm assuming that they were used for correcting some stroke errors. For example, in the character Jiao on the left, the area circled in blue highlights an arrow. So it's a kind of it's a vertical turning horizontal hook stroke here, but actually this is the correct way. And this is the font I use to paint. So it should be a dot rather than a whole stroke. And the reason for this could be Dyer's like 1834 publication of a selection of 3,000 characters, which served as a menu for punchy engravers at that time. So, and this is comparing the content of that book published by Dyer. It's evidence that the engraver strictly follows the specifications outlined in the book. So it's this take from his book. It's described which one should be like what the kind of shape should be made, and on the top is here. So the engravers will look at the manual, and when they engrave it, they found this one they engrave on the top part, and then they found the bottom one on that row, and to engrave it here to make a punch. And also additionally, there are some Chinese type with like a from traditionally like it's a side comes a little bit out through like exact reason I don't know. It's like remains unknown. And this is the only one. So on the side view, that just comes out a little bit. I don't know why. And they are not like composite types, but rather just single character type. And there's also a more complex digital type consisting 5 small components, with the lower right part is slightly shorter. So this is the back of it, and this is the front. First thing is that I cannot recognize what is this letter, but when I open it, it's just something like this, and it is on the back of it. And its legs, there are 2 small pieces here. It's just a bit lower than the average of the type height. And this is one of the digital type that forms the previous of this one. So this shape is quite hard to make, and normally I'm not sure like what is why they do these things. Probably like my assumption is they want to fix some problem that's to find a efficient way to make it. And finally, I would like to showcase some like print produced using these fonts. And I'm going to show to conclude. Here's a video of Jeff helped me to like to print out these things at the newly established like printing workshop in our department. Yeah, this is a video, and I already make we try to together to make do some practice of these fonts. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put any sound on it, and it's quite interesting because it's not that like evenly produced, because the types are quite old, and it's produced by using punch to pressing on the metal because of density. So it's quite sometimes you lose a lot of details from it. Yeah, and I think if someone like want to do some testing, it's okay to query from like Jeff and Emma to do some printing test. But I would suggest at least 2 people to go there. They are super heavy. But like last year, like a master student, we together to take that out. And not only for this one, but also for the font one, it's also really heavy, like more than 30 kilogram of that. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you so much.
There's some questions. I just want to say, I think this is so exciting that you wrote about something in your PhD and you looked into history,
Yeah.
and then you get to later handle the actual types that you've been writing about.
Yeah.
That is, and just to be able to connect it to Samuel Dyer is very, very exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions?
I feel really lucky actually. It's like the Chinese, like a Chinese person used far away from here, but my object is 20 meters from here. Yeah.
When you say it was produced by punches, what you're saying is you're distinguishing it from the electrotyping that Gamble had introduced and which then was used also in, by others to extend the character set.
Yes.
So the ones here were just definitely not the electrotyped ones.
Yes, not.
They're the original.
Yeah,
but really good.
Yeah, and it's quite really good example of that. But for our font, I'm not sure if this font is imported from Netherlands. It can be a bit confused for people. Like I can show here. So when like a Jonah Hoffman, he got the types. He used electrotype from the type made by like a punches, and he looked at it and to make some metrics from this type. So and then recast it. So actually, at the beginning, Hoffman only bought the types from Hong Kong, and he used electric to do that, to make metrics and use metric to recast the types again. If our type are from Netherlands, imported from Netherlands, I don't know how to like define that. Yeah, but it looks like originally from like a punch cartoon. Yeah, like a Western style like submission.
Sorry, we've got a question from Sydney Shep online.
Yes.
Just raised his hand.
Oh, kia ora. Just wondering if you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. I'm tuning in a very early morning from New Zealand.
Oh.
Victoria University of Wellington has about 300,000 individual sorts of a collection of full form traditional Chinese types that were used to print monthly newspaper on behalf of the New Zealand Chinese commercial growers. Our types were sourced from Hong Kong, from the Imperial Type Foundry in Hong Kong. And if you continued your story of the eastward movement of the types out of Shanghai, they went to Taiwan, they went to Hong Kong, and that's where our collection has come from.
Yeah.
I'd love to correspond further because some of the questions that you have, we have been able to answer by talking to type founders and printers in Taiwan and Hong Kong. And yeah, it's a fascinating study, and I congratulate you on getting a collection for Reading that it's wonderful to see that you're using it. Ours is being cleaned and curated and being used again as well. But I did wonder whether you were in touch with Bath Spa University, which has a complete collection from the Racine Type Foundry in Taipei, because that has a whole other story to go with it that you might find will complement the story that you're telling with your types. But I'll be in touch anyway. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I do know the Racine like type foundry. They did a lot of revival of the traditional metal types. Yeah, I haven't been to town, but I really want to travel to there to look at their archives. Thank you.
Jeff,
Question?
Why keep looking at me?
Jeff, are you able to say how worn the types are, in your opinion?
We've only taken just the one print that we saw the slide of, and that was straight off a galley. So although some of it looked as if it may be worn, I think if we were to take further prints and make it ready properly on the press, we might well find that they're better than we think they are.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you've had a lot of feeling to do.
Yes.
Yes. A lot.
When we take the photos, actually, we have a few brushes, like Xunchang, Quartz, and me. We clean for like 20 minutes and then take one photography of it. And this, like the drawers, is a bit hard because there's lots of like dust into the small like box. In each small box, they have lots of things. And also, I think it's because if we can find some like for example, I connect with Randall from the Netherlands, and they do have the metrics, even that is from electrotyped metrics. But if we link some like the types, we can ask them to cast some letters for our collection to use. Because if you want to use that to print some actual Chinese content, we need a kind of relatively full character set. That would be better, yeah. And also, I also asked like Randall to give me the clear dimension, like a detailed dimension of the type. So I want to prove the type in our collection is exactly the same from what they have in Netherlands. But I'm still waiting for their information. Yeah, especially we have a lot of discussion related to the height of the types. Here is 23.9. And it's quite different from what Oxford University Press use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm quite interested in what they have in Netherlands, but I did some they write a few articles related to that and also in the exhibition, but I haven't found the height to paper for their types. Yeah.
Xunchang, there's a question from Anne Baycroft in the chat. See it?
Have you looked into the derivative type made by Legrand and Bauhaus in Paris and Germany respectively? The mission press in China use both these fonts, Core and Gamble also all worked to correct some of the errors they found in these fonts. Yes, I do look at them, and I wrote the evolution of Chinese typeforms up to the early 20th century. It's in my PhD thesis. I describe what Legrand and Legrand did for the Paris type and Bauhaus. Like we call that Paris type and Berlin type in China. And actually, yes, it is used, and they are quite. It's super interesting to find out how they use it in China. For example, like Bauhaus, firstly, he did some like a kitey style metal type, and it's mixed with Simon-Diet 24-point like a metal type used in Shanghai. So because like Simon-Diet made the character is sometimes the character set is not that sufficient, so they may take some other fonts to mix them together, even they are not in same style or not in the same like type size. They will mix them together. There are lots of interesting examples. You know.
We do know that OUP got a lot of types from Stephen Austin as well as Clouds. So it'd be quite interesting to see if we can find a trail of how they got
Yes. Yeah.
to OUP, and then some ended up in the basement of the British Library that apparently there, which I think we had a look at as well.
Yes, I don't think you mean the in Dubai.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have some very good examples of the countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. We and MATT students they just from there.
Yeah.
You guys have seen those kind of really it's like divisible countries. Yeah, that's quite interesting. And later on, I'm going to like to find evidence for these rules. For example, are there any evidence from? I mean, which country for our types from? I'm still not sure with it. If I got some like information from Netherlands, I can prove maybe our type are origin from Netherlands to import it to the UK or directly from Hong Kong. Maybe it's going to be confirmed. I think hopefully, yeah.
It's a team from Hong Kong sent few people to Netherlands to make the punches from the majors, and then they spend 3 days over there. But the workers in Netherlands, they doesn't work really well with machines, so they end up making like 2,000 to 3,000 punches, and then they carry it back to Hong Kong. I know it's like 3 years ago they did it.
Yes, yeah.
For the exhibition, yeah.
Yeah, the exhibition. But the key issue for here is like the metrics used in Netherlands actually is electrotyped from the origin text they bought from Hong Kong. So I'm not sure what is because when they have the metrics they can recast that depends on their own height paper. So it's like I want to say like the origin of it. If their type height is different, that can be like same with us. Maybe our types are from Netherlands, or like if we are different, maybe from Hong Kong directly. Yeah, because like London Missionary Society and in the UK it is easier than Netherlands to acquire those types because some data is sent by London Missionary Society. Yeah. And also my photography. Last time when we have the Baxilla project, I got a lot of inspiration. The photography can be much more better. Yeah.
Sorry, related to this, because you mentioned the Baskerville project, there is a question within that project now, but whether the kind of capture they are getting with their equipment is sufficient for people to the kind of research you are doing without access to the physical material, because they were doing rather smart spectrographically calibrated pictures. So then you could ask metallurgical questions or process questions, very easy to identify the process of making something from the captured images.
Yeah.
There might be something coming out of that project that might also feed into what you are doing, where then you can capture things with a different kind of technology,
Yeah.
just the visible spectrum camera, but then can feed it research further down. So but I think we're at the stage where the technology for capturing metal objects, which are a terrible thing to try to capture, seems to be turning a point.
Yes, yeah. But I think I prefer to, we have the chance to look at the actual object that is better actually. But the capture, that's all from the perspective. Yeah. If they, for example, this one, I want to show this is like, when I see the items, I didn't recognize these are marked differently. But if I look at the photos, compare them, that's clear to me. But if this photo have a small, like here, it have a kind of a cutting inside. But yeah, but actually I think it's a mistake because this type is broken on here. Yeah, it's not like sometimes like to compare with this, it may be better. Yeah, and they do have the object. If they can take photography of but with the types, they do have that. So let people to see that actual thing. Enjoy.
Yeah.
It.
They're always better.
Yeah.
But like, for example, you have someone from halfway around the world asking a question. It would be interesting to be able to share.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and also if their photography, they can enlarge lots of the texture.
Didn't you raise your hand? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, just there's a couple of points we've found in our research that the quote unquote standardized point system is not relevant to Chinese types. They have, in our series, we've got a series of Kaishu number 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's geometric relations. So Kaishu number 4, 4 of those together, which are the body type, are equivalent to Kaishu number 1, which is the largest size, which is sort of equivalent to 24 point, but not. So I think, going down a rabbit hole by talking about point sizes, similarly type height, ours are all higher than 0.918 one-thousandths of an inch. And that seems to be the standard across the Chinese types. So again, it's a standard within the Chinese type system. And the English or Western system had to adjust to that. So one of the features of our collection is when they did cast Latin types, they cast them to the same height as the Chinese types so that they could be printed together. So that's a bit of an anomaly. But the final thing is, as with Western types, the placement of the notch and the existence of what are called pin marks on the sides of the sorts will help you identify the type foundry, because each foundry had its distinctive marks. So I wonder if in your research you're making the claim they're from the same collection, originating back, but have you got any indication that the matrices were the same and therefore the type founders were the same?
Yeah, it's hard to explain this because, for example, the first thing you mentioned is type size system. It's quite late. It's when William Gamble take all the fonts made by like the missionaries and to Japan, and the first like there's I forgot his name, is the father of Japanese like typography. He tried to give like kind of like the size system, and before that time is like late 20th century, around that time, and we like for Chinese like Chinese typography we have the type system. Before that actually is they are quite do differently. Like for example, some diaries make it like quite different from what Robert Morrison did. Robert Morrison has a printer from the also from like the Mission Society, and they did some when Morrison's printer went to like a Canton, some like he like they already make some like plans to make the Chinese types. They produce some blank like blank types, and then directly worked on that to produce the dictionary of English and Chinese language. So like I'm trying to like to organize all the information I collected and try to create a kind of framework or structure to describe the route for the evolution of Chinese typeforms. And still on the way to do that. Yeah.
Xunchang, there's a question in the chat.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thanks for 1.10. It's great to see the new progress in your research. I have a question about your notation of 13.5 point from Hong Kong time. Did point and British and American point system never used the decimal points, 30.5 points. This was actually a new invention by Japanese, yes, and didn't historically exist. I would like to ask, do you think this notation need to be a special explanation? Thank you for answering advance. Yeah. Yeah, I would like, because it's 13.5 points, this type size is actually start from like a Korean Kobayama. So I just followed what he mentioned in his research, and also Sun Mingyuan, and we all agree with that. It's just giving a name for Hong Kong time, and I would like use 13.5 points size actually is to distinguish from the 24 point, because those two fonts all lead by Samurai. And if you want to describe directly for its Hong Kong type, because I'm at the beginning of that, I'm quite not sure Hong Kong type refer to the 24 point like fonts or the 13.5 point. But now I think they are all referred to the like a Hong Kong type actually directly refer to the 13.5 point type. Yes, actually, it's not kind of a new invention. It's just a term to like to use to call a font in my research paper. So if I always use that term to refer to the 13.5 point, which seems convenient for me. Yeah.
I think Nicola has a question.
Can you just say a bit more about how you're hoping to develop the work, like going forward and plan?
You mean the further research?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing is I want to get more information from Netherlands, what they describe, and also I just read the article from Yun. Like she just asked me the question about 30.5 points size. She wrote an article related to the like this kind of types imported into Netherlands, and also I also want to connect with like the person who gave me this types and do some field trips for more information related to that. Yeah, and also it's a kind of this kind of research. I think it's all depends on the perspective. For example, is the original phase. I already did research how Samurai story about it, but Richard Cole actually leaked some information because Richard Cole is how he like developed those fonts, how many characters he like refined. Is still like I cannot. It should be do some like data like collecting. There's some lots of big data things, and also for our types here, actually is I only test some like samples, especially like for here. Some types I haven't like done all the like analyze like how many character sets do we have. I just did a really basic one. For example, here is there are there are 255 characters in this typeface. But I want to open others, like, but they are really heavy. It's kind of, it needs a bit of exercise to check this. And what is the exact like number of these? And I want to put them into some like frame of here. For example, I choose this one. So if we have this kind of instructions, and I think student can use the type to print something. So I want to do like a more like practical things to like my title, the last translation, those historical items, and we can use it nowadays. Yeah. Yeah, and this is quite like heavy to yeah.
Sorry, you got me right now.
Yeah, that's good.
You got
Thank
one
you.
more.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think we've had a wonderful afternoon, evening. Thank you very much for this. It's been fascinating, and we're all really looking forward to seeing what you do next. But yeah, take care not to carry any of these things. On your own. Thank you very much.